Hey everyone, Rob here from Gunfather Milsim. Today I'm bringing you a video on 5 reasons Airsoft is great for testing different CQB techniques. Now, at my day job as a CQB trainer and SWAT officer, we often have to test different CQB theories to see what works best. In the real world, gunfights between good guys and bad guys in CQB environments are incredibly rare. And if you're waiting on that data to develop good technique, you're going to be waiting a long time because the scenarios just don't happen that often in the real world. So what we try to do on the SWAT side is what we call sim it out, where we'll set up the scenarios and we'll use simunitions and do force-on-force training against each other to see which techniques work best. I understand a lot of times you'll have a technique that's 90% effective versus one that's 95% effective. So the margins are kind of small in some of these situations. What I'm arguing in this video is that there are times when Airsoft is actually better than using sims for determining which technique is best. Now this is one of a two-part video. The other section of it's going to be 5 reasons that Airsoft is not good for determining which CQB tactics are best, but we'll stay on the positive side for now. First one is you're using a 1-to-1 replica of your real-world weapon. This is my EMG Daniel Defense Mark 18. Obviously it's an Airsoft gun, but it's set up almost identically to my real-world gun. The only difference is that one has an EOTech and this is an Aim.M 2. But I can mount everything the same on this as I can my real gun. So my light, my position of my switch, where my optic is, how the stock is set up, magazines reload the same. Everything is exactly the same as my real-world gun. That's a huge advantage when it comes to training. Does it perform just like the real-world gun? No, clearly it doesn't, but either do sims and UTMs. But as far as the actual size and weight of it, it's pretty close, and that's a huge advantage when you're trying to simulate a real-world activity using something as close as possible to the real-world gun. Second reason is Airsoft is widely available and affordable. If I was going to try to put on some sort of force-on-force training on a recreational side using UTMs or simunitions, it wouldn't happen. Honestly, it's cost prohibitive, and not that many people have it. They just don't have access to that equipment. Whereas Airsoft, I can find an Airsoft game any weekend in any major city, and a lot of them are actual CQB facilities that simulate CQB environments. And the cost of getting into Airsoft is relatively low. For a couple $100, you can get an entry-level gun and get into the sport. Yes, I realize a lot of people spend lots more money on their gear, Lord knows I do, but just entry-level or just renting gear, it is relatively inexpensive. The third reason Airsoft is great for testing CQB techniques is simply reps. If I was doing training at work where we're using simunitions and setting up scenarios, even on a really busy day, I'd only get 15 to 20 reps. There's just not that many reps because it takes a while to set up, and then there's constant debriefing and kind of micromanaging it to an extreme. Yeah, that's important, but sometimes it gets in the way of actually getting reps and getting that large base of knowledge. Whereas if I go to, let's say, a Airsoft field, okay, my local field is Panoramic CQB. That's the free shout out. That's the one I go to. And I'm going there and just doing some pickup game on a Saturday afternoon. I am going to get 50 to 75, maybe even 100 little mini gunfights using cover, shooting projectiles at other thinking human beings who are trying to shoot back at me. You just can't beat the reps. The raw number of reps is why it is so effective. And from those reps, I can practice different techniques, different things I'm thinking about. Does this work? Does this not work? And from those reps, I can start to get an idea of what is effective and what is not. You're just not going to get that many reps doing it on a formal law enforcement simunition side. It's just not going to happen. The fourth reason is Airsoft is almost all prepared defenders. What is a prepared defender? A prepared defender is someone who knows you're there, they're armed, or they're willing to engage you, and they're watching either the door, the corner, or the hallway that you're going to come down. In the real world, prepared defenders are incredibly rare. On a SWAT entry, the vast majority of the people you're going to run into are compliant. In Airsoft, damn near everybody's a prepared defender. And when you're gauging whether or not a CQB technique works well, you want to test it against a prepared defender because that is the most dangerous thing you're going to run into. In Airsoft, that's everyone. So we can really get a good idea for how well this technique is going to work in the worst case scenario in the real world. The fifth reason Airsoft is a great way for testing CQB technique is that you have trained opposition and untrained opposition and everything in between. When I set up these scenarios with my fellow SWAT team members, everybody is very well trained. And even though we can tell them, hey, act like you're untrained or do this or do that or act a certain way, ultimately they don't. They just have too much training to do something that a normal untrained person or scared person would do in that scenario. In Airsoft, on the other hand, since you have a wide variety of participants, I get to try different techniques against people who have no training, who are afraid, who react in strange ways, and people who are really, really well trained, albeit only in airsoft. They're very experienced and they know how to use cover and angles very well. That variety of opposition makes for really, really, really good training. I have some techniques that I use against untrained people are successful 95% of the time, but that same technique against a trained person is really not nearly as effective. So using airsoft, I can get a lot of reps of force-on-force training against a variety of opponents of all varying skill levels. This gives me a huge data set to glean information from and figure out what works best and what doesn't. So that's all I got for 5 reasons airsoft is great for testing CQB technique. Stay tuned for the follow-on video. This one in which I'm going to talk about the 5 reasons airsoft is horrible for testing CQB technique. You're going to see that here in probably a week or two. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. You guys know how YouTube works. Better yet, buy some merchandise. Go to dieshowtactical.com. That's my company, that's my website. At that store, you can find Gunfather Milsim patches. They look like that. You can also find a variety of slings. I sell a whole bunch of different models of slings in a variety of colors. Thanks for watching.